Good evening, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Tuesday's edition of Alaska Weather. Moving on to the first graphic, river breakup map, and you can see most of the southern rivers now pretty much open, have run their course as far as breakup goes. Still some mostly open there along the Yukon River, but pretty much done as far as any breakup goes. The threat of ice jams pretty much over. And of course, yesterday the Buckland River ice jam went out, and so it's mostly open now all the way down to the mouth. And then the let's see, that's the Kobuk River, still has some mostly ice down toward the mouth of the river there where it branches off toward the coastline, and some open at least about a half or 2/3 of the way up before you get to mostly open there. So slowly progressing slowly, and then the noaa about the same. North Slope rivers haven't seen much change at all, if any, over the last week or so, with the Colville and Carrick still all ice, and then the Sag River still has that small area of open water. It's been about the same as far as length goes for the last week or so, and so temperature's just not warm enough to kick breakup off in the North Slope yet, but usually by the end of May, about the 30th, 31st, Arctic coastal average highs are near or in the lower 30s start breaking the frost point there. So it's just a matter of time till they break up. And from there, going on to fire danger, decrease over the last couple of days in fire danger as far as extent, no extreme fire danger, just these areas actually just barely reaching the high category. They're from Kuskokwim Bay up toward the lower Yukon River there, and then kind of real spotty now up along the mid-Yukon River Valley, lower to mid-valley, and even up the flats there along the Porcupine where it meets the Yukon River. That's smaller than it was yesterday, and elevated fire dangers there south of Fairbanks up toward the north slope of the Alaska Range, and then also over the Kuskokwim Valley there on the northwest side of the Alaska Range. And saw a decrease in the fire danger over the Kenai Peninsula, cooler temperatures, and actually a little bit of shower activity coming through, higher humidities, and to a lesser extent over the Sitna Valley, and pretty much gone in the Copper River Basin. And for the hazardous weather graphic, we still have a flood advisory out for the northern Copper River Basin, which includes the Gulkana River and Lake Louise Road, and that's out until midday on Thursday, for another couple of days anyway, and that's for continued snow melt causing the high water levels. No ice jams at all, just melting snow at the lower to mid elevation areas. Satellite imagery showing a lot of clear skies along the central interior all the way down into the Yukon Delta, and kind of a band of convection there over the Kuskokwim Mountains extending down toward Kuskokwim Bay, and actually that extends all the way down to the eastern Aleutians. Some showers now approaching the north side of the Unmak and Alaska Island areas, with some isolated thunderstorms developing this afternoon between Bethel and McGrath there, and as you can see the clouds sort of develop on this visual imagery I'm showing here. And then mostly cloudy skies across southern Alaska with some rainfall amounts over the Copper River Basin that helped knock back that fire danger. Eureka had a 24-hour rainfall amount of about 1/4 of an inch, and the Besna picked up 0.15 of an inch, so definitely some areas of wetting rains there. And Cordova seeing about 2/3 of an inch of rain. That was in the last 24 hours, so it was really kind of focused in there on the eastern North Gulf Coast area to Cape St. Elias. And even Independence Mine had a wetting rain of about 1/10 of an inch. Yakutat 1400ths. Otherwise, dried out over the Panhandle today. Still some clouds over the southeast coast, but pretty much showers have ended. And actually seeing some clearing skies going on over areas of the southeast coast. No storminess at all out over the Bering Sea. You can see one thin band well south of the the western Aleutians there, trying to work its way northward, but just a big high pressure area out over the Bering Sea, and some bands of clouds coming over the top of the ridge in westerly flow, trying to come into the Bering Sea, but none of those are very organized. And the one up over the eastern Arctic coast actually did kick off some areas of light snow and flurries and fog over the eastern Arctic coast. Otherwise, not a bad day up that way. Not a lot of sunshine, but light winds were light, and it was dry. And for the southern interior, again, the thunderstorms kicking off over the Kuskokwim Valley there from McGrath to Bethel. Not real extensive yet, and also over north of Destruction Bay, a couple of lightning strikes there. Otherwise, there's shower activity over the Copper River Basin to the Talkeetnas, locally over the Kenai Peninsula area, and up toward the eastern Alaska Range. But ending for Kodiak Island, showers ended there. Dry over the Aleutians, light winds of the Bering Sea, areas of low clouds and fog. But again, that band of shower activity extending from the north shore of Unalaska Island northeastward right into Kuskokwim Bay, and then on up toward the lower Yukon River Delta where those thunderstorms were. And for tonight, high pressure over Kamishak Bay, not all that strong. Really just kind of an area, not really an area of strong high pressure, just really higher just due to a lack of storminess. The one in the Bering Sea, a little more significant there, that holding the system back to the southwest, keeping it from approaching the Aleutians. Some moisture does break off from that and come up and skirt Chimionat too, with a few areas of light rain, drizzle, or fog. And low clouds and fog in the Arctic coast, dry over the Panhandle. Looking at the forecast for Wednesday. Thermal low over the Yukon Flats in the afternoon, and showers again develop with scattered to isolated thunderstorms. Developing possibly over the Talkeetnas and the eastern Alaska Range, maybe even the western Alaska Range, with shower activity Kuskokwim Valley down toward the southwest mountains, maybe the Aleutian Range. Just an isolated shower chance for Kodiak. Should be a pretty good day there, partly mostly sunny, especially in the afternoon. Fognak Island down to at least the state airport there, Ozinki area. Scattered showers for the Alaska Peninsula. Partly to mostly sunny for the Panhandle. Winds light, temperatures not too bad. Probably warmer than today. A few flurries maybe on the western Arctic coast, but nothing significant on the chart here at all. And so going to Thursday, again, nothing, no big storms. The one stays south of the Aleutians there. That warm front kind of wraps back around in the clockwise flow around the high southwest of St. Matthew Island. But that easterly flow keeps it west of even Chimionat and to the south of the remainder of the Aleutians. It's just variable clouds, some clearing, light winds from south of the Aleutians all the way up into the Arctic Ocean. No winds at all of any significance across the state, and then just scattered convection over the mountainous terrain from the Aleutian Range, Alaska Range there, and maybe the Talkeetnas. Showers chances over the Brooks Range in the afternoon. Otherwise, partly to mostly sunny over the interior, with highs 60s to lower 70s over the inland areas away from the water. And for lows tonight, lower to mid-20s for the Arctic coast and North Slope. Otherwise, south of the Brooks Range, upper 30s to mid-40s. And upper 30s to lower 40s for south central Alaska, in the 30s for the Copper River Basin, but everywhere should stay above freezing, except for maybe the colder, higher valleys over there. And lows in the 40s for the Panhandle, near 40 for the Aleutians, but down to the frost point for St. Paul, Savunga, St. George, and Gamble, as well as Tin City. Highs tomorrow, upper 60s to lower 70s, interior Alaska, especially the central interior back to the west. And in the 60s again, Susitna Valley, 55 to 64 for the Kenai Peninsula, and then in the 50s for the Panhandle, lower to mid 50s, maybe a little warmer down to the south, and then lows 40s in the interior, upper 20s to lower 30s, Arctic coast and North Slope, and then the highs approaching 60, upper 50s, lower 60s for the southeast coast, and 65 to 73 Susitna Valley. Upper 60s to lower 70s over the central interior, in the 30s along the Arctic coast.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
And on to flying weather. We've got some IFR starting the day off Wednesday morning along the Arctic coast. Otherwise, in North Slope, right on down into Bristol Bay and the Aleutian Range, Kodiak Island, North Gulf Coast, and the Panhandle, all VFR. and that even extends off the coast of the Bering Sea there. Nunivak Island, St. Lawrence Island, Bering Strait coast, all VFR. IFR, though, from St. Matthew Island to St. George, and marginal VFR from Unimak Island up along the Alaska Peninsula to about roughly Port Hayden, and then VFR at Atka, Adak, Kiska, and Amchitka with marginal VFR to the west. And for the afternoon, still some IFR on the central Arctic coast there. Otherwise, nothing but VFR, interior Alaska down to the North Gulf Coast, Panhandle, all the marginal VFR offshore there in the Gulf, maybe catching, south of Prince William Sound. Middleton Island, probably in the marginal VFR zone. Pribilof's IFR, but not quite reaching St. Matthew Island, marginal VFR, Amchitka westward to the Komodorskis. VFR Adak all the way to the Alaska Peninsula. And for the morning Thursday, VFR interior Alaska. Got some IFR may show up and push right along the Yukon Delta coast there. More likely, though, from the Bering Strait to St. Lawrence Island, kind of a widespread area of IFR now out over the Bering Sea, including the Pribilofs and western Aleutians, marginal for Adak and Atka, but VFR from Fox Islands, Nikolsky, eastward to Unalaska, Dutch Harbor, all the Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island. Marginal VFR pushing up to maybe Cordova, Cape St. Elias, and then kind of hugging the North Gulf Coast, there, or the north coast of the Panhandle. VFR on the inside waters, Arctic coast, even in the Arctic Ocean there, good VFR. Afternoon, some marginal VFR pushes down to the eastern Arctic coast, maybe. Otherwise, VFR for the central and west side there. VFR right down into the Bering Strait. Marginal VFR, so kind of an improvement there in the afternoon for the Bering Sea, going from IFR to marginal. Pribilof's marginal, all the Aleutians marginal except Chimney 2 hanging in that IFR zone out west. VFR, Kodiak Island, North Gulf Coast, right across the Panhandle, and the marginal VFR pulling back off the coast. Anatuvik, VFR. Atikan, same forecast, VFR in either approach. The Alaska Range, all passes VFR tomorrow. Ceilings visibility is unlimited in some areas. Rainy, for example, VFR. Windy, VFR. Isabel's wide open, either approach. Same forecast from Antasta. Tanita, looking good, VFR. Portage, also VFR, either entrance, even the east side. And for Chilkoot and White, VFR. And the freezing levels, upper level ridging redeveloping over the Bering Sea. So we've got 8,000 foot freezing levels there over the northern Bering, back down to about 4,000 for the western Aleutians. And a cold pocket about 2,000 feet there over the eastern North Gulf Coast and across Lincoln Island Glacier Bay area. And for icing, no significant icing will occur anywhere in the forecast area tomorrow. And for the winds aloft jet stream, upper level ridging out over the Bering Sea again, extending down into the central Aleutians. Pretty light winds, 85 knots approaching the western Arctic coast, with those quickly die out as they make landfall eastern interior, right along the eastern border, Alaska side. Northerlies 35 to 50 knots. And then northeast 30 knots, really pretty light for 33,000 feet. Light variable winds over the Panhandle. The main jet down south of the Queen Charlotte's, actually into British Columbia. And the 18,000 foot, or actually 9,000 foot wind flow, northwest, west-northwest, 25 to 30 knots there for the Arctic coast, North Slope, Western Brooks Range area, northwest coast. Turn northerly at about 25 there in a band right across the central Tanana Valley, White Mountains, Fairbanks area. Otherwise pretty light, most other areas. Southeast, 25 to 30 knots there for the area west of Adak to about Kiska Island. 3,000 feet, 20 to 30 knot winds, western Aleutians, but high pressure over the Bering Sea, and then west-northwest, 20 to 25 knots there for the Arctic coast. Otherwise, pretty light variable winds elsewhere. Turbulence-wise, really the only significant area would be over the western Aleutians from surface to 5,000 feet, light, very isolated, moderate chop at times out that way. Otherwise, smooth across the remainder of the state. So after the break, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecast and other interesting information.
Hello, I'm a GOES-R series weather satellite orbiting 22,000 miles above Earth. I can see a lot of cool stuff from up here, and I take pictures of it with my spiffy camera that has 16 different settings. I have such good eyesight, I can see clouds, snow, smoke, smog, and ash, so I can warn you about dangerous conditions and help you avoid them. When storms are brewing, I watch them closely and help with hurricane, tornado, and flood warnings to help keep you safe. And my lightning mapper tracks lightning strikes way up in the sky, even through dark, dense clouds. I also help with search and rescue missions. I listen for distress signals from emergency beacons and tell search and rescue teams just where to find people who need help. But even when I'm keeping a close eye on Earth, I'm monitoring weather out here in space, too. I watch the sun for big bursts of energy, which send waves of radiation toward Earth that can affect power grids, block communication with planes, cause errors in GPS, and damage satellites. Space weather is also very dangerous for astronauts working outside the International Space Station. I warn them so they can get inside where they'll be safe. So the next time you watch a weather report or check your phone for the forecast, remember, that's me. So look to the sky and wave. I'll be here. Whoa! Things are looking pretty bad down there. But don't worry. I'm going to give weather forecasters a heads up and help you stay safe. I'm a GOZAR series weather satellite, and one of my jobs is to keep an eye on Earth's weather as I orbit above. But I'm 22,000 miles above Earth. How does your local weather forecaster know what I see all the way up here? First, I have to figure out what's going on. I point my special camera at the Earth and take pictures of the clouds I see below. My pictures show where the clouds are, but I also take lots of other notes about the clouds. For example, how high they reach into the atmosphere, how much rain they might cause, and when a severe storm may be forming. But I can't keep all of this information to myself. I have to share it with weather forecasters down on Earth. A big antenna is waiting for my call. Since I'm a satellite, I send my pictures and notes in a computer language of ones and zeros. Luckily, the antenna speaks my language. Computers connected to the antenna organize my notes and combine all of the pictures and cloud information and translate them into weather maps. They send a version of the maps back up to me. I'll hold on to these for later. Another copy of the maps is split into smaller pieces. This helps the maps move faster from one place to another. The map pieces are then sent for processing before being sent back up in the sky to a communication satellite. From there, the maps are picked up by antennas at the National Weather Service forecast offices in each region. There are more than 100 offices. I also take the maps that I received and send them out to companies that specialize in making the maps more colorful and better for viewing on TVs and computers. The colorful maps and the maps from the forecast offices then go to your local weather forecaster. The forecaster combines the information from these maps with lots of other information, like model forecast data and radar data, to make predictions about the upcoming weather in your area. And that's how I help you find out if bad weather is going to ruin your afternoon plans. You're welcome. Soon it will be my time to shine. In outer space. I'm the GOES-R satellite. That stands for Geostationary Operational Environmental Satellite. And the R stands for my order in this series of weather satellites. Like my older siblings before me, I'll do a lot for watching weather, but I'm pretty special because I have a lot of new gadgets. I'm originally from Colorado, but my journey to space has a few stops along the way. I'll be shipped in a very special satellite shipping container to Kennedy Space Center. Moving me around is not easy. I'm over 18 feet wide and weigh 6,000 pounds. And then things get really exciting. I get loaded onto an Atlas V541 launch vehicle. A big rocket! Woo! After Atlas and I blast off together, my compartment separates from the launch vehicle and I continue to climb higher and higher. Then I break away completely and unfurl my solar panel and antenna. After that, I have to use my thrusters to get into just the right position, 22,000 miles above the ground and traveling 1.9 miles per second to keep up with Earth's rotation. And then I can officially start my job along with my fellow GOES sisters, where I take advanced pictures for more accurate weather forecasts, map lightning in real time, and improve the monitoring of the sun's activity. It's going to be so awesome! I can't wait!
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Along the south coast of the outer panhandle, 15-knot winds on the day Wednesday out of the northwest, seas 5 feet. North coast, light northwest winds at 10 knots with 4-foot seas. Lincoln Island Glacier Bay, looking at winds from the south at 10 knots. Stevens Passage, north winds at 10 knots. Clarence Strait, northwest winds, 10 knots, seas 2 feet. And for Thursday, north to northwest winds, 10 knots with 2-foot seas for the inside waters. And for the south coast, northwesterlies, 15 to 20 knots. And for the north coast, northwest winds, 15 to 20 knots with 5 to 6-foot seas. Prince William Sound, variable winds, 10 knots, seas 2 feet for the day Wednesday. Cook Inlet, southwest winds, 10 knots, seas 2 to 3 feet. Light variable winds at 10 knots. With 2-foot seas for Kamishak Bay, variable winds at 10 for the Barren Islands, and a west-southwest breeze for the North Gulf Coast with seas at 4 feet. And for Wednesday, variable winds 10 knots for Prince William, or for Thursday, variable winds 10 knots for Prince William Sound, west winds 15 knots for the North Gulf Coast, seas under 5 feet, and for the Barren Islands, west winds 15 knots, seas 5 feet, variable winds at 10 for Kamishak Bay. Cook Inlet, light southwest breeze at 10 knots, seas 3 feet. Kodiak Island, variable winds at 10 knots, 2 to 3-foot seas for the day Wednesday. Bristol Bay, light variable winds. And for the Alaska Peninsula, winds will be light and variable with slight seas at 4 feet in the Pacific side of the peninsula. And for Thursday, Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula, winds will be north of 15 knots. Otherwise, the south side, they stay light and variable. And actually from Cape Sarachev to Sitkinak, looking at variable winds at 10 knots. Kodiak Island, though, west winds 15 to 20 knots, seas up to 6 feet. In Bristol Bay, west winds at 15 knots. Fox Islands, variable winds 10 knots for Wednesday. Adak and Atka, northeast at 15 knots with 3-foot seas. And from Amchitka Island to Shimia, winds will be east at 20 knots. 20-knot easterlies continue from Shimia to Amchitka through Thursday with seas running 6 to 8 feet. Adak and Atka, east-northeast winds 15 knots. And for Winnemac Island, east-northeast winds 15 knots. And for Unalaska Island, north winds 15 knots. For Pribilofs, tomorrow, variable winds at 10 knots, seas only at 3 feet. Variable winds at 10 knots also for the Yukon Delta coast. Northern Bering Sea to St. Lawrence Island, winds will be west at 15 knots, and the Kuskokwim Delta coast variable to southeast breeze tomorrow at 10 knots. Thursday, Norton Sound, St. Lawrence Island, west winds of 15 knots. Yukon Delta coast, the Pribilof, St. Matthew Island, all light and variable winds with 1 to 3 foot seas. Kuskokwim Delta coastline looking at northwest winds at 15 knots. For the eastern Beaufort Sea coast on Wednesday, winds southerly 10 to 15 knots, west winds of 15 for the central and western Arctic coast, all the way down to Cape Thompson. Cape Thompson to Wales, southwest at 15. And for Thursday, Wales to Cape Thompson, southwest 15. And then 15 knot winds for the western Arctic coast, central coast up to 20 knots out of the west, and then west-southwest at 15 for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. For tonight, low clouds and fog, areas of there for the Arctic coast, maybe a few low clouds in over the north slope. Otherwise, fair over the interior. Whatever showers are going late this afternoon, this evening will taper off and end over southern Alaska. And no action out west at all, just high pressure over the Bering Sea areas. And some little bit of moisture sneaks on up to the Shimiatu area. And that front to the south of the western Aleutians pretty much stays south of the area there, tries to push northward, but high pressure over the Bering Sea holding it back. And trough kicks off some showers over the Kuskokwim Mountains, western Alaska Range, maybe some isolated thunderstorms again over the Talkeetnas and the eastern Alaska Range. Otherwise fair and sunny over the Panhandle, Kenai Peninsula, mostly sunny over Kodiak Island. Thursday, isolated thunderstorms, Alaska Range, maybe the Aleutian Range, but not much in the way of any precipitation. Temperatures on an upward swing again in the afternoon, starting to head back into the upper 60s to mid 70s. Fair over the Panhandle, risk of a shower on Prince of Wales Island. Otherwise, that's about it. The Aleutians, a little bit easterly on the winds there, but still light, low clouds and fog covering the Bering Sea, and that warm front too far west to bring any moisture into the state.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.